Back in the day, I thought, maybe I'd just watch a little bit of Booktube, get a couple book recommendations. And then I started watching all these fantastic channels, and this happens. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew, and today I got another video for you. But before we get to that video, make sure you're liking and subscribing, hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates for when I put out new content. Post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And also, make sure you're checking the description box down below for the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord, as well as links to all of my social media and information about my Patreon. That said guys, this is just kind of like a fun little video. I was kind of surfing Booktube a few days ago, and I think I saw Elliot Brooks's books I read because of social media, and then another version of this video where it's books I read because of my fellow booktubers and my peers and all that stuff. And I got to thinking, that's a pretty fun idea. And so I kind of wanted to do it, and so I kind of wrote it down, stuck it on a post-it note, and slapped it over there. And I was like, I'll get to it when I get to it. Well, now I've gotten to it. And so it's funny because I went from a viewer to a booktuber like that, a little bit of peer pressure, and just bam, I start my channel. And then I had already started hauling books, well before that. I was watching Alan, and I was watching Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, and so a lot of this can be attributed to them. But specifically what this video is what series and or book do I look at, and I think about one of my friends, and one of my peers, and things of that nature. And these are all people that I've interacted with, or talked with, or had discussions with, things of that nature. And for that reason, I've got one honorable mention, and we'll get to that in a second. I just kind of I wanted to share the series, the impact that these people have had on my lives, the stories they've introduced me to. It's a really fun idea. The honorable mention for me, of course, is going to be Kings of the Wild. And this is because this is one of the first book reviews and author interviews that I ever watched. That was on Daniel Green's channel, way back in the day. And I say way back in the day, it's a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so that really kind of reignited and got me into the booktube scene and looking for other channels and things of that nature. I've never interacted with Daniel Green, so this is just an honorable mention. That said, everything else that I've got are just people that I've talked to and I consider friends or I really, really look up to. So the first one we've got here is Later by Stephen King. And let's get rid of that post-it note because it doesn't matter. And literally the reason for this is this is Jake the Bookish Drummer. And if you know Jake is just, he's a constant reader. He loves Stephen King. And he does tier rankings, he does tags, everything about Stephen King. And the reason I think of Later when Jake comes to mind is the pure fact is he's the only one I talk to about all three hard case novels that Stephen King put out, and that's Colorado Kid, Joyland, and this one. I literally messaged him every single time I picked up one of this, and Later is the one we talked about the most about. I think we talked for probably 30 minutes just back and forth discussing Later. It's a great book, and I had a great discussion with him about it. Now this one's kind of a fun one, because when I initially did this one, it was the first buddy read for the Wizardly Duo Discord when Nico and I combined, and I started my channel, and he is like, hey, come on in, we'll kind of run this thing together. And so it was David Gimmels' Legend. But what's really interesting about this is when I look at this book, I don't think about Nico. I actually think about Sarah from Sarah Reads. And for that reason is because right before we started, she dropped an amazing review. And I jumped in the comments, and that was our first interaction with Sarah. Or my first interaction, not our. My first interaction with Sarah. And we just had this fantastic discussion in the comment section. And it got me really excited to read it. And she's like, yeah, let me know your thoughts. And I came back later. And now we talk all the time, but it all started right here. Post-it notes everywhere. Right here with David Gimmels' Legend. Alright, now speaking of Nico, this is actually for two people. Mostly Nico, because Nico's the one who pushed me to do it, but it also makes me think about Mark from Slowly Read. And that's going to be King of Thorns. Guys, this is so cool, because I had read the Book of the Ancestor trilogy, and I was I wasn't super sold on Mark Lawrence. I was you know what? Maybe later. And then Nico was no, The Broken Empire is really, really good. And I'd watched Mark talk about it, because I think that was one of my first interactions with Mark in the comment section as well, which he like responded instantly. He was very responsive. And I was like, oh, Mark's awesome. And then like I discovered Nico, and Nico kind of gave me that final push. He's like, read Broken Empire. And so when I look at Mark Lawrence books and things of that nature, I really think about Nico. And like I've even helped Nico's wife shop Mark Lawrence books, like Red Queen's War by the Grim Oak Omnibus Edition. I helped her kind of shop for Nico for like an anniversary gift. So yeah, no, like I'm just tied to Nico with that series now. Now, I've already mentioned like Mike and how like half of my collection is his fault. He said he's not sorry, and I believe him. But the one that like when I look at my shelf and I go, that's Mike's fault, and I can't thank him enough for it, it's got to be The Faithful and the Fallen. This is one of the first series, like when I discovered Mike's channel, he was talking all about Faithful and the Fallen and John Gwynn and how nobody was talking about him. And like he really breathed life into the Booktube community for this series, and like, you know, brought it to a lot of people's attention. And man, I love this book. I love this series. It's got a very, very special place in my heart. And that's all because of Mike. And I mean, literally, if I was going to be like, oh, this series reminds me of Mike, we'd be here for at least an hour. Now, this one, I believe, is my good friend Pete's fault. And it doesn't matter because like he's like he either runs or is a moderator on the Shelf Published in Discord, which they do a lot of self-pub. And I remember they were talking about a book one month, and I was just like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. And he was like, here's the cover art. And it was Zach Argyle's Voice of War. And since then, I've had conversations with Zach. Like, Zach is really, really cool. He's a lot of fun to interact with on like social media, or like, you know, whenever he's doing a live show, sometimes I'll pop in and we'll have some interactions back and forth. But Zach is super awesome. But Pete is the one who gave me the push to read this, and I absolutely fell in love with the Threadlight series. Like, it's so good. It's fantastic. And now, like, I always keep it right there. And whenever I look at it, I think about my buddy Pete. And also, I mean, Pete got me a wizard hat, and so whenever I look at that, I'm like, you know, Pete. Now, of course, this is going to surprise nobody when I hold up Guards and say, the Library of Alexandria. Alan is, like, you know, my buddy Nico and my cousins, and, I mean, Drew's book reviews, just tons of people, like Domnish, all love Discworld. But it was Alan, when I believe it was a Where You Should Start Discworld video. Where should you start in Discworld? It was one of those videos. It was his earlier stuff. And he was like talking about Guards and how it was like his favorite book, and Sam Vimes. And I am Captain Team Sam Vimes all the way. I've actually sent Alan like a Samuel Vimes bust from like the Discworld Emporium. Like I just sent it to him as a thank you for introducing me to this series. Whenever I think Samuel Vimes, I will now always think the Library of Alexandria. And I can't thank him enough for that, because honestly, it had a couple lows, but like the lows are like 4.75, like 5-star books. Like I had just, I'm speechless with how much I loved the City Watch collection. And so really I could hold up every single one and be like, yep, that one's Alan. And then I look at these all day, every day while I'm working. They're right over my my camera. You can't see them right now. But that's the Nightmare Land Chronicles, Daniel Barnett. And I remember this was earlier in, like, probably back in May. And my Booktube big sister Leslie was just reading City of Blood. She was just like, I don't have anybody to talk to about this series. Please, somebody read it. Somebody read it. And I just was like, okay, fine, I'll read it. I don't really do horror. And oh my god, I fell in love. I've had conversations with Daniel Barnett. I've done an author interview with Daniel Barnett. I'll stick that up there. With Leslie. I mean, like, this is just, will always be tied. Like, Leslie will always be tied to this series for me. Which makes me so happy, because the first 6 books have just been straight fire. Oh, straight fire. Oh, I got a lot of love for this one, too. It's The Cradle Unsold. I first heard about this, I think it was from Patrick Leo. And I ignored it for months and months and months. And then, like, you know, he kept talking about it. And then people in my Discord were like, oh, Cradle's amazing. Cradle. And then I was like, all right, you know, I'll give it a shot. Let's see what's going on here. And I flew through like 10 books in 3 months. 3 months? Like, it wasn't that long. I flew through this. And again, I've got those right over there. I look at them all day long. I love the Cradle series. It's fantastic. It will forever be tied to Patrick Leo. He is just a champion of just fantasy, and just, he's so awesome. He gave me a shout out that just made my year a few months ago, and I was absolutely floored when I got that shout out from Patrick. And I mean, like, now I've got a series that will always remind me of him. Like, come Booktube, like, YouTube could shut down tomorrow, and I will always remember Patrick Leo because of these books. And that goes for any of these series. This one, I'm going to blame on Alex Nieves. That's going to be Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. And literally, I think he started reading this probably like 6 months ago. Like, he's slowly just fitting them in when he could. But, like, I had heard about The Expanse, and I was like, alright. And then, like, he was like, I'm going to read Leviathan Wakes. I was like, oh, I want to read it too. And then I just couldn't fit it into my TBR. But then, like, it was an inkling there. Like, hey, you need to get the Leviathan Wakes. You need to get the Leviathan Wakes. Then one of my moderators was like, oh, Leviathan Wakes is awesome. And I was like, yeah, I'd heard Alex Nieves said it was awesome. And Alex is just a really cool dude. He's really laid back. Our tastes are fairly similar. We diverge in some places. But, I mean, I've got all of these in hardcover. So whenever I look at these on my shelf, I am going to be thinking, thanks, Alex. Because these, while they're not the best written books, they are so entertaining. Like, I gave book 3 2 stars. I'm not even mad that I read it. Like, it's super entertaining. It's just got logic holes that drive me nuts. Like, 50% of that book just shouldn't happen. Shouldn't have happened. And it just shows straight negligence. Like, that's all it is. Is like, it's incompetence from characters who shouldn't be incompetent. And I'm just like, no, I don't believe you. But I still had a great time reading the book, and I still gave it 2 stars. Like, I don't know what happened. It's magic. Shouldn't happen. This is the last one we got here, guys. And this is from my good buddy Bryce at Shelf Centered. And I don't read YA. I don't typically reach for it. And so when he said, this is, you know, if you watch my channel and you've heard me talk about Bryce, you know what book I'm talking about. It's The Dark Trials by T. James Kelly. Basically, he was like, this is one of the best books I've read all year. I said, color me intrigued. And then the author saw my comment, and I guess they're friends or something. I think they're both lawyers. And he was like, hey, you want a copy of my book? I was like, oh, yes. If Bryce says it's the best book he's read all year, I would very much like a copy of that book. And so the author sent it to me, and I fucking loved The Dark Trials by T. James Kelly. I ended up loving it. I still need to read Dante's. It's sitting upstairs on my shelf, and I keep looking at my TBR going, okay, where can I fit in Dante's? Because I need to continue the story. I will, you know, Bryce he very much loves a lot of the same books that I do. And Bryce is just fantastic. He's just a lot of fun to talk to. And he's just this really cool, really laid-back guy. He does, like, these little short videos on, like, deals. And now that I've got this on my shelf, I'll never forget him because, I mean, he's just such a cool guy and a lot of fun to hang out with. I need to do a live show with Bryce or something about it. Maybe we can do, like, yeah, something Dark Trials. That'd be fun. Bryce, if you're watching, hit me up. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of these recommendations. Do these books remind you of these booktubers? Like, or of the booktubers I mentioned, what books that they have recommended remind you of them? Like, you can have completely different answers because, of course, we don't just read one series. At least not usually. Please let me know in the comments down below. I look forward to having a good old discussion about these amazing people and these amazing books. That said, guys, that's the end of the video. So, till next time, peace out, stay magical, bye. And as always, guys, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.